Hello everyone, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up, just all the books that I read in the month of February. I did read 10 books. My average rating was kind of low this month, but I did find a new favorite. So I'm just going to talk about all of them in the order that I read them. The first one is kind of boring, but this one is 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna Wiest. I listened to this on audio. I got it from Libby. It's a pretty typical self-help book, but I did really enjoy it. I think I would have liked it more had I read it physically or on my Kindle instead. I don't know, it was a little hard to follow audiobook wise just with the way that it was kind of laid out and set up, but I do think that it provided some good insight and good advice. I feel like most people that watch these types of videos are probably around my age. I'm 25, so I feel like most of us were just kind of navigating our 20s, which is great. I think growing up is wonderful. I love getting older. I think every year has been my favorite year yet. Each year is better than the last. It was kind of like a lifestyle, habit changing book. I would recommend reading it physically, not the audiobook, but I did enjoy it. Next up is The One by John Mars. This has a TV show or a movie or something based on this book, and I think the concept was a lot cooler than the actual execution of the book. Basically, you can swab your cheek, get your DNA tested, and then find your ideal perfect match. It was a dystopian kind of concept, but a contemporary feel to it. There were just too many characters to follow. There were 5 main characters, which to me was just too many. I feel like I didn't know any of them. It felt very surface level to me. There was a twist that I predicted, so the fact of it being a dystopian thriller didn't really hit for me. But I am interested to see what the next books are like. I think it's a companion novel series, so not directly following the same characters, which, praise Jesus, because I didn't care about any of them. The one interesting one, I think, was there's the serial killer, and it was following him and this person that he supposedly is matched with. She's a police officer, so she's investigating his case but doesn't know that it's him. I feel like it was trying desperately to be the Mindfuck series, which I've not read. I've heard is very good, but it was trying to be that, but didn't execute it well. Again, I think this was a better concept than it was actually written. I really loved Keep It in the Family by John Mars, so I was really looking forward to this one. I was really excited for it and it just fell flat for me. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. Next is The Crash by Frieda McFadden. This is Frieda's newest book and I didn't like it that much. I also gave this one 2 stars. This one follows our main character Tegan. She's kind of in just a bad situation. She lives in a shitty apartment, she has a bad car, she just can't catch a break, and she's also 8 months pregnant from a one-night stand. So she knows who the guy is that got her pregnant. There's backstory to that. It doesn't really matter. Basically, he's married and has other children and doesn't want this to get out that he was sleeping around. So he offers to pay her off, and she's like, oh great, well I'll get money, no biggie, I won't have to worry about the kid, I'll get to move out of this apartment, blah blah blah. She remembers something while they're doing these negotiations and ends up having to leave. So she decides to go and stay with her brother, and there's this wild snowstorm. I think it's set in Maine or Vermont or something, somewhere very north and very cold and very snowy. And so she decides to leave during a snowstorm after work one day, ends up getting in a car crash, and she gets saved by this guy who's this kind of macho man. She's scared of him for kind of no reason. It's very unfounded, her being scared of him. Anyway, because the snowstorm is so bad, he's like, well, we can't get you to the hospital, we'll just take you to my house. Red flag, creepy. Anyway, they get to his house and she meets his wife, and she thinks the wife is being abused by him. She makes up this whole story in her head. Basically, if she would have just talked to them, it wouldn't have been an issue. But the wife decides to hold her captive because she wants the baby. Kind of the main spiel of the book. It sounds a lot better than it actually was. A lot of Frieda's books have been swing and a miss recently. I feel like her older books were a lot better than the newer ones. I don't know. I do like that all of her books include someone in the medical field though. So the wife used to be a nurse. So it's kind of cool because Frieda, I think, is a brain surgeon or something in real life. She just writes on the side, which is pretty cool. So she's in the medical field, so I think that that's kind of the reason that she has all of her characters have something to do with that. I don't know. I just didn't care. I just didn't care what was going to happen to Tegan at all. not at all. The next book is another audiobook, and it's When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. She is the same author that wrote Divergent, which was one of my favorite book series growing up. She is the reason that I like dystopian, I think. I feel like that's kind of the same with a lot of people. Same with The Hunger Games, but anyway, this is very, very different from that. It's like a Slavic folklore urban fantasy, like a retelling. It was very short. It was just like a novella. It follows our main character, Demeter, and it just has a lot of different folklore, kind of paranormal characters. I didn't really feel connected to any of them. I think because I listened to it instead of reading it physically, and it was just so short that it didn't really like give me any time to like the characters. I'm interested to see what book 2 would be like. I think it is a cool enough concept. I give this one 2 stars as well. Urban fantasy is my favorite type of fantasy, so that part of it was cool. It was set in Chicago, and it was kind of like magical realism that mixed with a little fantasy elements and kind of paranormal. There were like vampires and werewolves-ish. They weren't called that, but it's kind of what it felt like. The cover though is very beautiful. So if I did collect books like I used to, I would definitely still buy this one. Next is my only 4-star book of the month, and that's Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare. This one is an anthology that follows Simon Lewis while he's going through the Shadowhunter Academy to ascend to become a Shadowhunter. It follows a lot of characters from the Mortal Instruments, which I really enjoyed. I prefer the Mortal Instruments to the Infernal Devices. I just connect better with the characters, and again, urban fantasy, but I just always will have a special place in my heart for all of those characters. So it was fun seeing them again now, like 10 years after I had originally read them, which is just crazy. It's crazy that I read it for the first time when I was like 15. Anyway, I feel like we got a lot about Magnus and Alec in this one, which was nice. We got kind of more of their backstory and their actual love story. I didn't realize that we didn't really know much about them. Like throughout the Mortal Instruments, I just kind of like put it all together in my head, but we didn't really get much from them. I liked seeing Simon and Isabel reconnect and deal with the amnesia situation that happened with Simon, and the fact that I forgot what happened to George at the end of this book is crazy to me. If you've read this, you know. Oh, what the heck? What was that? What a tragic ending. I was so sad when I read it. I was like, I saw it coming. I don't know if I subconsciously kind of like remembered what happened without actually remembering it, but it's very sad at the end. I can say though, I am very impressed with Cassandra Clare's writing. As the books go on, the writing just gets so much better. And this one, I think I said this the last time, but I think this one and the previous book were kind of like the turning point in her writing style. This one felt like really put together, like very edited, very clean and nice. So I am so excited to read the rest of the books. I've read Lady Midnight, but nothing after that. So the point of my rereads was to get to this point, so I'm so excited to continue. Next is my only 5-star of the month. This is one of my favorite books that I've read this year, and that's Variation by Rebecca Yarros. Rebecca Yarros strikes again. I loved this book. I was a dancer my whole life, and ballet was my favorite, so I really connected with our main character, Allie. It follows Allie and Hudson. Allie is a professional ballet dancer with the Met in New York City. It's a very prestigious ballet company. She's a principal dancer, and she ends up getting hurt on stage during a performance. She has to go back to her hometown, like beach town summer house where she grew up, and she meets/remates her old best friend Hudson. He has achieved his goals of becoming a Coast Guard rescue swimmer, and so he's doing that from this small town on the East Coast. It shows their relationship growing from back then to now. They end up meeting under kind of weird circumstances. His niece is trying to get into ballet school and like do all of these different classes. Her mom doesn't want her to dance. There's a whole backstory to that. I loved this. I loved the setting. I loved the fact that it was about ballet. It was just so fun. And so many of the reviews that I was reading were just complaining that there was too much ballet. I don't know what to tell you. You signed up for it. You knew what it was about. So I really liked it. I loved the New York City setting as well. I've not been to New York City, but when I was younger, I really wanted to live there and dance professionally. Didn't end up happening, which is fine, but it's always fun kind of seeing a world that I, in another life, kind of would have lived, I think. So I just really loved it. And the yearning from this man, he has loved her for his whole life. And it was so precious seeing him interact with her and like just want to be with her so badly. I loved it. I loved them together. The spice scenes were tasteful. I feel like a lot of romance books now are just like too much, but this was very tasteful. So give this one 5 stars. It felt a lot like Emily Henry and Catherine Center. We had some deeper topics which were very nicely woven in. The next book that I read is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I gave this one 2 stars. Listen to the audiobook. This book basically just follows this girl who has completely blanked out the murder of her best friend. She doesn't know if she had a part in it. She doesn't know what happened. Amnesia in books is my absolute least favorite thing because it just ends up plot-wise that you just learn about something, remember something right when you need to. Stupid. I hate that trope. Our main character Lucy ends up going back to her hometown to try and like remember what happened. There's a true crime podcaster who is covering the story. She kind of gets coerced into working with him. Her grandma is like a busybody and invites her home for her birthday party and then like makes them work together. I didn't really like anything about this book, honestly. The one spicy scene freaked me the freak out because this man is like really into the fact that she could be a murderer, just getting like weirdly turned on by that. If that shows anything, I'm not made for dark romance. That creeped me out, and it was literally one scene that didn't even have anything happen. He just needed to chill out. Just chill. Okay, I lied. There was one thing that I liked, and it was because I listened to the audiobook. There were like podcast snippets in it. There were some like sound effects and stuff. That was the only redeeming feature. Next is a prequel novella called Chaos Rising by Kyla Stone. This one is a dystopian apocalyptic book. It's a prequel for the Edge of Collapse series. And this one follows this man named Liam, and he's going to Chicago to go and visit his twin brother and his brother's wife. All of a sudden they're driving back from the airport and an EMP hits, and all of these electronics just stop. Like everything just stops. So the cars stop, the traffic lights, literally everything electronic just stops, including the planes that are flying above them. So there was a plane crash, and it's just following Liam kind of dealing with that and getting through that, because what else are you gonna do? Like, you just have to make your way through it. He used to be in the military, so he feels a little bit more prepared than some other people, but it's a very good setup for the first book, which I'm very excited to reread. I've already read that one, but I feel like now that I have some backstory on Liam, I'm gonna care a little bit more about the rest of the series. Like I said before, I love dystopian. I love apocalyptic books. I love kind of real life things that could happen that haven't happened yet. It's like the EMP is so cool to me. So it feels kind of like sci-fi, but like could happen, very like real world, gives some perspective. Next is another continuation of a series, and that's The Grandest Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I hated this book. I literally hated basically everything about it. 1 star for certain. This is such an unpopular opinion, but I don't like Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I liked some of the Naturals books. I didn't really like the Inheritance Game series. I just feel like it was so overhyped. This one, I knew going in I probably wasn't gonna love it, but I didn't think I was gonna hate it this much. It was such a pointless addition to the storyline. This is technically a companion series to the Inheritance Games. If you hadn't read the Inheritance Games, you would have absolutely no idea what was going on. It followed way too many characters, didn't know who any of them were, like didn't give you any context to who these people were. You just jumped right into these pointless freaking games and riddles and doing things for no reason just to get to an end goal, and we don't even find anything out. Literally so dumb. I didn't care about any of the characters. They were all trying so hard to be like unique and different and quirky, and it was just done so poorly. And it's so disappointing because, again, I liked some of the Naturals books. I just don't get it because this book, not it. It was not it. If you like it, please let me know what you liked about it, because I couldn't find anything. I was just annoyed by the characters and the puzzles and the people, and like the setting was weird. They went to an island and I don't know. I just did not like it. And finally, the last book that I read is All the Missing Pieces by Catherine Cowles. I didn't know that mystery romance was a genre, but now that I do, I'm definitely going to seek more out. I really enjoyed this one. I give this one 3 stars. I really liked our main characters, Ridley and Colt. Ridley is this happy-go-lucky, kind of free spirit girl. She's a true crime podcaster as well. So that was just kind of the theme of the month for me. But this is a grumpy sunshine. So Colt, our main male character, he is the grumpy one. He is the sheriff in this very small town. So Ridley's sister went missing the night before their college graduation. She's been trying to figure out what happened ever since. So it's been like 4 years she's been doing this podcast. She's finally decided to try and solve that case. She's doing that by going back to the one that she thinks was the first one, kind of the botched first kidnapping. So we have that mystery element to it. She goes to this very small town. You get like very good classic small town vibes. It's just a very cool setting. There's a cute coffee shop, there's a cute bar, there's a good cast of characters. It was a very fun small town setting. And she just rolls up in this old Volkswagen van. She has a 3-legged cat. She's very quirky. And she has a run-in with Colt right away. He's trying to play like macho man, whatever. Ends up being fine. I really liked their relationship together. It's very cute. I don't typically gravitate towards Grumpy Sunshine, but this one was cute. I liked the way that kind of progressed with them. I don't like the friends with benefits, kind of enemies with benefits deal, but I think this one was done pretty well. They were both healing from some like undiscussed trauma, so it kind of makes sense. They were both a little closed off, but the ending was very cute. And I can't remember if I said this or not, but I did give this one 3 stars. So as a little wrap up, again, I read 10 books. 4 were on Kindle Unlimited, 4 were audiobooks. 1 was from the library, and then 1 was from the library on Kindle. I'm someone who's very passionate about personal finance, which I know is kind of weird to be like excited about, but I'm also just very curious about money in general. So I thought it would be kind of cool to add in how much money I spent on all of the books that I read in the month. If this is something that you guys are like way not into, just let me know. But I think it's cool for the month because I only used Kindle Unlimited and went to the library. I only spent $12.87 on my books. I'm not someone who buys physical books anymore. I haven't since we moved here. I know my numbers are going to be a little bit different than other people's because I primarily do Kindle Unlimited and the library, but if you want, you can let me know how much money you spent on books this month. But again, if you're not into it, just let me know. Overall though, again, I read 10 books and I read 3,704 pages, which is kind of a slower month for me. I feel like I normally read more than that, but here we are. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you've read any of these books, just let me know your thoughts on them, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys!